Well, let's just get started. So, I would like to welcome everyone to Coffee Talk episode number 11. Yes, 11. We had 10 last time. And today, sadly, Morse is unable to join us due to technical difficulties with his internet. And yeah, he's had technicians out all day, apparently. So he wrote to me and asked if he should postpone or delay to tomorrow. But luckily we had a faithful viewer who reached out to Zizaran and asked if he wanted to join us. So he wrote to me and here we are. So welcome, Zizaran, to the Coffee Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you are today's guest host, so... could you,
as I said earlier, like I've never spoken to Morris like in person, which is like my favorite thing about the AMAs. Like you get to meet someone for like the first time, like when I had you on. So that's always super fun. So yeah, gonna have to talk to him sometime.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that I've spoken to Morris a little bit in the prior to this about having you on, and he's definitely open to that idea. So fear not, you'll get your chance with Morris.
Cool.
But could you...
See, unlike your character, he's actually alive in Path of Paper.
Oh, okay. Before we go into that, could you just quickly tell a little, like, who you are?
All right.
For those listening in.
My name is Zizaran. I started streaming Path of Exile in October 2015. I usually go really hard at the start of the league, do like multiple 24-hour sessions, try and fail to race to the first level 100, then just play around with different builds and love playing meta builds and making guides for people, stuff like that. Being efficient, not doing chaos recipe.
Cool. Well, you're talking about Path of Paper. So tell me about that.
So basically, I can't remember if the first time I heard about it is when I did an AMA with Angry, but I remember somebody told me that Angry AA had developed like a Dungeons and Dragons pen and paper version of Path of Exile. So like Dungeons and Dragons, but in Path of Exile. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And I messaged him really early on being like, hey, can I get in on that if you're going to do it? And he's like, oh, I mean, yeah, maybe. But then a couple of months ago, he messaged me and was like, hey, you remember how you wanted to play Path of Paper? And I was like, yeah. He's like, right, okay, well, let's go. And then he was asking me if I had any other suggestions of people. And he said that like Ziggy and Amy was going to be on it. And I was like, dude, you got to get General Sos. He's fucking hilarious. It's going to be good shit. And we just started playing. And I think we're on episode 4 now. It's a lot of fun. Really enjoyable.
I watched I think I watched the first one, and it seems that you have a good mix of people in there. At first, I wasn't really sure whether or not just kind of the mesh of all the people would like fit, but it flows really well, it seems.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous of like Ziggy's role playing ability. It's like, for me, it's like you got to be kind of brave to do stuff like that.
Oh,
like, that's something like. Because something I really enjoy and I feel is really important to streaming is like being able to be a little bit cringe and be a little bit far out, which I'm definitely providing a lot of cringe sometimes, but there's like that little extra that is like hard to do, especially with like role playing and acting and stuff. Like another streamer that's like really fun for this is a smaller streamer called Trightmare, which I enjoy hosting. And then I'm like, every time I host him, I'm like, can you do the dance? And he does like these weeb dances, and they're fantastic. Like that is bravery right there. Like doing stuff like that in front of thousands of people, that is like balls of steel. It's really fun.
Oh, for sure. So what else? Like how is it going in pen and paper? Who is? Just give us like a little insight into the journey.
So, like, I don't want to talk about today's episode too much because I know a lot of people still are waiting on the VOD. But basically, in the first episode, we sort of, like we got to Lioness Watch, we killed Hillock, obviously, stuff like that. And it's sort of different. And like we've been encountering exiles of like other streamers. So, for example, we met like Rise, Hegemony, and Morse. and we ended up killing Rise. That was like the first
Good.
episode. So this is all available on my YouTube. And I was very sad about that because I actually wanted to enslave Rise and have it as like a running joke. And we've been like encountering more and more exiles, and it's he's really good at it's a very dynamic world, so it's not like Path of Exile like the game itself. So for example, randomly Merveil appeared at some time. We were like, what the shit?
Oh, so you're not following
it's very,
like a quest line or anything?
Yeah, what he said and explained it to us was that like there are different paths we can take. And for example, say that we go straight for Merveil, or say that we go straight for Brutus, the other stuff is going to change. Like that's going to become harder, more developed. And so you have to choose like what do you think is going to develop the least. Okay,
but could you then go straight to Dominus, or is there like a certain?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's not.
We can build a boat right now and like sail around and go straight for like Malachi or like Dominus, stuff like that.
But would that be a good idea though?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's probably going to be like a higher level area, maybe.
Okay, so just to compare it just to PoE, is whether or not there's like how you if you can just go wherever, and so there's no kind of you decide the journey and then he as the dungeon master has to scale it for you, or.
Well, yeah, I'm not really sure how he does scaling in like areas ahead of us because we are just starting out and we're still learning about it.
Yeah.
But he's very good at like adapting to anything. Like he doesn't really follow a static set of rules, it feels like, except on like dice rolls. Like he doesn't sugarcoat it. Like if we're gonna die, we're gonna die. We almost died today to Hellman. Other than that, I'm not gonna say anything. But it was pretty sketch today.
Wait, so has anyone died yet? And what? Or...
No. I've almost died. Q-Talk has almost died. And Ziggy's almost died.
What happens if you die?
So it's been you have to, well, it depends. If you die to like another exile, or depends who you die to. They can choose to keep you as a slave and then you like have a different story arc, or you can die and like you have to make a new character. So but he's very good at like creating a dynamic world. So like in the first episode, first or second, but in one of the early episodes, we defeat Fiery Fury and free her cannibals. But we offer them the chance to join us. We're actually building an army now. So obviously very different from like what you were doing in Path of Exile.
Why did the inspiration come? Is that just like kind of the base gameplay of Dungeons and Dragons, since you can build an army, or is that something that's always in there, or do you know?
No, that was just something I was like, see, I said he's very good at like adapting to what we want to do. So even though there's nothing like that in the game, there's no like rules for owning slaves or building an army or building a fortress. He's just like playing this by ear and like, oh, we want to try this, and he's like, yeah, go for it. So that's like where like the real skill as a dungeon master really comes through. Like he's very good at adapting to things.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool.
So right now, like we've met like Vagan, and he's helping train our slaves, and he's just like started building up a new system. Like some of our cannibals are level 2 now, and they're like stopping being cannibals for feeding them roas instead. And yeah, it's like really developing. So it's kind of cool how well he is at like adapting to the way we want to play it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I've played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons before, and definitely my favorite so far.
Oh, okay. I've never tried it. I really wanted to try it.
It's definitely an experience I would recommend.
If let's say some of the people listening in would like to try out the game, is that possible? Like, has he released
he's published everything.
Okay.
He also said he wants to. It takes a lot of time, but he wants to work on making like a GM guide. So for people who want to like be the dungeon master, he wants to like make a guide to make that easier.
Okay.
So obviously right now, like he has so much experience, so he's like very good at making stuff up. I'd say that's sort of the thing that's like the most daunting right now about starting a new campaign, would be being a dungeon master is pretty hard unless you are very experienced in doing it already.
Yeah.
But as long as you have a close group of friends, I think it's pretty easy to like pick up and go. Like it's a very detailed rule book.
Oh, nice. Oh.
Oh, and I've had a few things got like nerfed instantly. Like there was this thing, if you had a bow out, you get to roll twice on initiative. So I was gonna hold a bow out for every single encounter and then weapon swap into my normal weapon. That got nerfed.
Oh, so he's not he doesn't hold back on the nerves if
No.
like mid play, mid league.
Yeah, no, like mid combat, he was like, no, you can't do
Mid-combat.
that. I'm nerfing that. I'm like, wow.
Okay.
I thought I was being so clever. In fact, as soon as I asked if I could buy a bow, that was it. He was like, no, you can't do that. It's like, oh.
Do you know if he has had any if he has talked at all with anyone at GGG about like how to develop the game or anything?
No, I don't know. I don't think we've talked about that.
Okay.
But yeah, it would be cool if like TTD wanted to help promote it and stuff like that, because obviously something we like sharing with people.
I know that they've recently. Have you read any of the Q&As that they've done? They've done 5 parts.
Oh right, I think I've only read 1 or 2.
Okay, I read we went over them last night on the stream here, and one of the things they were talking about is that they actually have had internal conversations about something like a card game. Do you know Gwent in Witcher, for instance?
Yeah.
Yeah. So something similar, but
so with like the div cards or
no, just to have an in-game little card or an in-game game, so to speak. But they weren't really pursuing it because they felt like it would just be more of a distraction than anything. Like instead of working on the actual game, they'd rather work on the game rather than the game in the game.
Yeah, I get that.
So
something I like wanted in Path of Exile though is some form of mini game. I always wanted them to like either. I mean, I don't know if fishing actually is a thing and just so hard that nobody has figured it out, but something like fishing or like a hideout mini game, something like that would be really fun, or something with the divination cards.
Yeah, I could see that. You think it would be worth worth it for them to invest time into it?
Yeah, I sort of do think so, because Path of Exile for me, and I think one of the reasons why people play and stay so long in League is because it has more of an MMO feeling than necessarily just like the Diablo 2 feeling. Like because of the community and stuff like that. I remember in like World of Warcraft and stuff, I'd be playing just non-stop, and that was more because of that special MMO feeling, which I feel Path of Exile has more than any other game like this. So more reasons to stick around and stuff like that. And like, can you imagine like a tower defense with your hideout? You would actually want to do your masters every day after they hit level 8 as well, just to get more points for towers or something.
That'd be so weird though, a tower defense.
You'd see so many more cool hideouts.
Yeah, but I'm kind of a guy of I value immersion and things fitting into the game. And a tower defense game in PoE, I just don't see how that would fit at all.
Easily be part of the lore though. You could have like a mission that is like things come into your hideout.
But do you want them as daily missions then? Would you want them as daily missions?
Yeah, could be a daily mission where enemies come into your hideout.
But then, but would there be some? Because then you have to like decide. Do you have an upside? Like, is there something? Is it something you have to do as a player, or else you feel like you're missing out? Because I would hate that.
I mean, it could just be like loot like a normal map or something.
Okay. Yeah, it could just be a small thing.
Yeah, something with like DPS testing as well for your hideout. Something I know a lot of people have wanted for a very long time.
Ooh. Would you like that?
DPS dummy in your hideout? Hell yeah. Especially when there are so many things like, because right now you can't really compare. Like, I get a lot of people asking like, oh, is 30k tooltip okay? And I'm like, well, on what? I mean, 30k on KB versus 30k on Essence Strain is like 2 completely different DPS values.
But you
there's no like, unless
you don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah, but it's sort of easier to tell people like, oh, for Aziri you want 300,000 DPS, and we're moving towards that now with Path of Building.
But should you? Should it be easy?
I guess.
You see, that's where I really wanna. I kind of like just step down and say no. There should be ambiguity. It shouldn't all just be easy to tell. I think that's one of the charm with PoE, that things aren't just cut out. There are like, you have to test. You have to go in game. You have to play test to figure out things.
I like that too. The problem for me now is that people using third parties don't have to. people using third parties like path building right now can go in, put exactly their character in and go, I have 1.6 million DPS. If I change those two nodes, I have 1.7 million DPS. However, if someone's not using a third party, they have no ability at all right now to see their character ahead of time and stuff like that. I want more things moved in-game. So I want PoE trade moved in-game and stuff like that. Like, I don't like all this third-party stuff. I'd also want, if they want, I'm fine with them removing the logout macro. And I would rather just have everything in-game.
Yeah, I can see that. Though the problem with the, okay, so I can give you a clear problem with removing the macro, for instance. Because if you move that in-game, or if you remove it or whatever, the game has to be 100% stable.
Yeah.
So first of all, the game has to be stable. And if you crash and you have these functions in-game, well, then you lose control of the game, and then it doesn't work. Whether or not you have the option to click the thing, but it doesn't function because the game is crashing. So that's why you need the tool outside of the game.
Right, I get that.
At least right now.
I get that, but you could still allow people to have, like, for people that want to go the extra mile and don't want the client crash disconnect deaths, they can still use the logout macro. But it would be nice to have the option when they are okay with it. It would be nice to people that don't not necessarily want to use a third party to have that option in game. That's still better than not having one.
No, I do agree with that. Though from their perspective, what I would say is that, well, then if they enable it in game, they also like when you put it into the game like that, it becomes like part of the game, and you can't really take it away. Then it becomes their design now. Okay, so this is how you should play the game, because we give these options in mind with the with the idea in mind that you want to use them. So now you would want, like, you would give the player this because you would want them to use it. And so if you give them all these tools in game as well, it become like, well, then the game, part of the game would then become, well, DPS testing and all these kind of things.
I mean, I feel like it sort of is already, though. You hear such a large portion of the community use a path of building now.
I don't know, like
to the point where, like, I can't remember who was saying, it was either Mathil or Kaiser, who was like, if you're not using path of building, you're wrong, was basically the sentiment. And yeah, it's crazy not to use it at the moment. When you have such a powerful tool, it's very hard not to use it.
Well, yeah. I use it. So I use it whenever I want to, like, figure out, like, just whether or not this one gem is better than the other.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. Like, I hate using stuff like that, and that's sort of the reason why I, like, stayed away from things like.
Go on.
What's that trade program called?
Oh, what's the trade program?
Something on M, right?
I don't know.
I'm sure chat will tell us in a second. But either way, like, the thing is, when you start relying on all these things and you start getting so used to it that they become mandatory, like, it's something you sort of start taking for granted too. Because I remember I had a viewer once that was saying, like, oh wow, you actually use PoE trade? And I was like, yeah, it's like the normal trade side. And he was like, he was really shocked because he had been blocking everyone that told him to use PoE trade in game because he thought it was like an illegal site.
Oh,
he was baffled that people were telling him to go to a third-party site. And he was like, he felt really bad, and he, like, went over and unblocked everyone he had blocked. But he had, like, been just ignoring everyone instantly because he thought it was like a, like, real money trading website or something that people had been sending him to. And it is kind of crazy that we still have a third-party program, but it's like, it's so much for a third party now with PoE. It's like the trading thing, path of building, even the Atlas planner, which is, that's basically just the website thing out again, but, and then logout macro. It's just crazy. And I sort of see where he's coming from. Yeah, Mercury trade, that's it. So we have so much third party now.
On the path of building, though, in the past, it was just, what people would do back then, and what I used to do, and Kriparian was well known for doing, is making spreadsheets. So you would just make your own calculations, and you would just have to, it was just a more, it just took longer to set up. Now you have a program where everything is coded into it, but you end up with the same result. Now it's just easier for people to get to.
Yeah, but that's it, isn't it? It's the easier and easier you make things, it's gonna affect things quite a lot.
I don't know if I think it's a bad thing to like to allow these third-party tools though. And you can't really put everything in game. Because then you clutter up the game eventually. If every good tool that is made by the community just ends up being in the game, well, you'll just have a million different, like immediately when you start out, it's like, bro, that's like you fucking grab.
No,
like,
that's fine, but come on, trading. That's like I see all these people having like these elaborate solutions for trading, and I feel like just if you put Path of or PoE trade in game with instant updates on the API. So say you're AFK and you have an item I want for sale, but I've toggled off AFK. You don't show up in my trade. That would save. Oh my god.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And the other thing for me is that we're relying so much on a third-party website that through 2 or 3 days this league where Path of Exile or PoE trade was down, it ruined the day for me. It was that bad because it's so
there
frustrating.
Are other sites though.
Still not working. Still not working.
But there are other sites, right? I'm pretty sure there are
like
other sites.
Trade or something.
Yeah.
But it goes to show how much we rely on one, like we get used to it and then like, oh my god, PoE trade is down.
No, I feel like from GG's perspective, they must want to have this kind of competition between the sites to get the better product out of it without them having to, at least for now. Because if they endorse one, then they have to kind of like take that and say this is now ours, and then everything that happens on there, like they're liable to that. So if there's something going on there, well then that is now their responsibility, rather than being a third-party site's responsibility. And if it's
just
not
something I feel like should be their responsibility though.
Well, I don't know if the third-party site should be, or I do agree that they need to step up the trading game though. They need to like come up with if they don't want to endorse any of these and say this is now, we've now taken this community tool and this is now how we do things, then they have to come up with something. That would be my response to that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's my entire thing though. This is like in every game, this is like one of the most core things for me. I love GGG to bits, but this is like one thing where I'm like, please just put something in game. It's like such a core thing that I can't believe the game has been out this long.
I will say there on the path of building and all that. I really don't know whether or not I think it's like we need dummies in game, and what's the next step? Do you need to be able to be immediately updated every time you hit a monster to how much damage you're doing? Like, do you want damage numbers? You can always take it one step further, and there's always, well, if you don't have this and have obviously augmenting your game with third-party tools is not allowed, and thank God for that.
Yeah,
because that would be like if you had someone with damage numbers. I don't know. I'm really hesitant with anything.
Well, you don't really need damage numbers at the moment anyway, because we're one-hitting everything. So,
wow, that is true. Do you like that?
I have seen no, I actually surprisingly hate it because I'm a big fan of the speed clear meta. And I'm really enjoying playing the game right now as well. But one thing I really don't like is that the only time we're scared of monsters is when they're dead or dying. So like reflect, volatiles, bears, and I love bears. I can kill my friends with them, which is always fun. But I want to like essence mobs are great. Essence mobs makes some of your builds feel like trash because you'll find like a 5 or 6 man essence mob with like double, triple life regen and crazy resists. And if you're like, for example, not an Inquisitor or something, and you're just not instantly penetrating your defenses, this thing is shitting all over you and like, oh my god, it's fucking regening. I'm out of potions. What is this mob? And in a while, like sometimes you're like, fuck this, I'm skipping it. But it is a really cool thing that there can be some mobs that even if you have a really nice build, they are really crazy. I don't agree with how they scale with volatiles because the essence mob with like contempt and volatile is basically run the fuck away. I remember I was. Oh, sorry.
I think that there might actually be some with all the double dipping changes, we might actually end up seeing some changes to volatiles as well, because so there might actually we might actually be in luck here, and where like some of the volatile stuff becomes less volatile. Because from what I understand, I don't know. Have you read the new damage over time?
Yeah.
Manifesto? Okay. So everything is scaled off base damage rather than kind of like feeding on itself. And so something like monster damage, if that does not, if that just like, let's say the volatile is now every single thing you add to the volatile damage, the end result, is all scaled of the base damage. So you add monster damage there, it's taken from the base damage. It doesn't like amplify all of them up to this huge number in the end.
Yeah.
So there could be something there at least, but I don't know. I don't know if they've actually come out and said anything on that specific.
When the problem I have with volatile, I don't mind the fact that it's a penalty for like clearing too fast and you should be paying attention to volatile mobs. I can see that, and I could even get on board with that. The problem I have is with mobs like drop bears that drop down on top of you or devourers that move next to you. And the main problem for me, and yeah, sure, it doesn't happen all the time, but it only has to happen one time to completely tilt you in something really bad happening. And what happened is I was playing on my Cycloner, and it was like Starforge Cyclone, and I had really high damage with the Starforge, and I had like 10 or 11 KES. And suddenly a Devourer that I one-shot from full HP popped up next to me, and it did like 9.5k damage to me. And I was like, if I had lower ES, or if I was at any life build at all, I would have insted myself to that with no warning. All I was doing was cycloning another pack, and this popped up. That's not something you can react to. And I love like rewarding players for skill, and rewarding players for seeing things. So sure, if I see an orange mob over there and I'm like, oh, that's a volatile, I'm not going to kill that one next to it. But if it's something that teleports on top of you and does 9.5k damage instantly, that's silly.
If everything becomes a reactionary, like if everything you do in the game is rewarded whenever you play reactionary, right? You get to see something and you react to it. Do you think everything should be like that though? You don't think that you should be surprised every once in a while? Because if we go back in time, we had, whenever we would meet Devourers or off-screen Roarers and all these other things where the monster itself, not the volatile here, but the actual monster would nearly just immediately kill you when it popped up. I like that.
I don't think you should be surprised with that. You have a nice build that has a lot of damage, therefore fuck you, make a new character. No, I don't think that's okay. Like there is no like, if you didn't have enough to tank that, there's nothing you could do there. You're cycloning on another pack. You haven't seen this thing before on your screen. Reroll.
But you know that you can one-shot things if they pop up on you. So you should make your character accordingly, shouldn't you?
But you can't make a life-based character have more than that. That's the problem.
But is that more balanced problems around life-based character versus like a ranged character that can have twice the amount of HP? Or is it a problem with the mechanic itself?
Honestly, it's like volatile is not a good mechanic. Something that should happen is volatile should just be more similar to Burning Man, or have like there should be like I like it when people have to react to something. So like you kill a volatile, something happens, you see it. That's why bears are great. And I'm fine with volatiles being exactly the same as bear, just one. So you kill a volatile, you know that if you get hit by this, you can die by that one. That's fine. Just make it something that's not going to just instantly one-shot you for not paying attention for a flat second.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of volatile myself. So I'm with you that I'm not the biggest fan of volatiles, though. I do think that they have merit, especially right now when there are so few things that can actually pop up and be a danger to you, where you don't even get to react. And I think it's important that sometimes you don't get to react. That your character just has to be strong by default. Yeah. Because one thing, like, when you look at all the endgame bosses, I think some of them are there's way too much dodging being enabled, where you can literally ignore the entire mechanic if you have good enough movement skill. Like if you can move fast enough, or if you have a movement skill that can just put you out of harm's way, then you can go in with 1 HP pretty much, and you can just poop on any boss. As long as you just move. Yeah. Because that kind of, I think that kind of goes against the idea of an ARPG where you want to have a character that can just withstand a lot of punishment, and you can't get out of it. So you have to have a strong character before you can even be allowed in that space.
I would want more different fights. So there are some fights that it's about your character being strong and not necessarily about the mechanical player. So just like, okay, for this, say, let's say for Ziri, you just need to be tanky. It doesn't matter if you're like playing with your thumb, it's more about your character. And then for like Shaper, it doesn't matter if you poured 656 billion assaults into your character. If you miss, like, if you stand in his beam for more than 3 seconds, it's 100% of your health, no matter what you put into it. So just, I like different things. And then I always want, or my favorite thing in games is to hear people's decision making. Like, I could have done this, but because of X, I chose to do Y instead. Not, I have to do this because it's the best, or it's the best way.
Yeah. No, I can follow you on that. But there's always going to be, like, a this is the best way kind of thing. Or almost always. In pretty, like, there's always one thing that just wins out in the end. Whether you like it or not, eventually we get to a point where we figure out, unless they actively change like the balance around it, we're always going to end up in that this is the better choice here.
But you can have it, but you can have it be, this is the better choice for this fight. You don't have to have it be, this is the best thing for everything.
Oh, for everything. No, I agree on that.
Yeah, I don't mind like anything. Like, for example, I'd say right now, on hardcore, anime weapon is the best thing for a Uber-Ziri. Like, it's very hard to die. Like, I've done 120 to 130 Uber-Ziri kills on hardcore now, and I'm not really good at the fight. It's just complete cheese. And yeah, that's great. It like rewards you for like clever thinking, using gluttony, setting up a character well, and that's great. But I can't do Shaper with that character. I'd have to swap to SRS or
because they're imitation of getting weapons for them.
Exactly. So you have that, at least from my point of view, the way I'm looking at it as players, anime weapon's the best for Uber-Ziri. But I can't do Shaper at all. I just can't do it. And
Zizaran is annoying as well. Like Zizaran must be annoying as well. There are plenty of those fights in the game though.
Yeah, but I want more things like that. I always hated it back in the day. Like, say, a year ago, someone would come into my chat and they would be like, here's Zizaran, what's the best build? And I'd be like, Cock Discharge, by far. Like, it's tier S, nothing, like, Cock Discharge can do everything.
But back then you had Uber-Ziri as well.
Yeah, but Cock Discharge could do Uber-Ziri, and it would have been able to do Shaper, it could do everything, and the high clear speed.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't want to build like that again.
No. I agree.
So right now, I love it. When people come into my chat now, they're like, Zizaran, what's the best build? And I'm like, well, depends what you want to do. And I love the fact that I have to say that. I love the fact that I can't just say anime weapon, Valspark, Val Fireball. Like, yeah, Val Fireball / Valspark is the king of clear speed, and it depends what you want to play. And you have options. And then you have other cool builds like Hawa, Val Molten Shell. And like, it's a pretty decent like balance right now of things you can tell people that are like, these things are cool to play.
I like that 50% of all the builds you just mentioned were all ball skills. You think that's in a good place though? Ball skills?
Val Fireball. Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Val Fireball and Valspark is the same build though. Let's face it.
Valspark and Val Fireball? Well, and
this is the same build.
Well, in that sense, then Val Molten Shell is also the same build.
No. Because that actually has single target and doesn't have that fast clear speed anymore. That's more like Cock Discharge. Val Molten Shell and Val Fireball are nothing
Fireball
like
has
anymore.
Crazy single target in the right circumstance. Like, it depends on what kind of circumstance.
With a Headhunter?
Well,
if you're setting up like a full Magic Find Val Fireball, it's not amazing.
Wow, you can do that with like, if you set anything up for Val, like for Magic Find, you take away of its power, obviously.
I mean, there are lots of builds that can do everything though. Look at Anime Weapon. I can set it up full MF on every single gear and still kill Uber-Ziri.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
But that's mostly due, but that's also due to poison, and that goes away soon enough.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't agree that Val Fireball has good single target though. Not unless you have a Headhunter.
I don't know, like it doesn't take much to set it up to where you just fireball or shotgun off a wall or something. And then everything
with
just falls
ISO being
over.
gone, I don't know.
I don't know. Like I wouldn't use Vol Fireball as my single target build. No, obviously not. Like I wouldn't take Vol Fireball into, say, a Breach versus Vol Molten Shell, where you have Vol Molten Shell in the end and you just stand there and you win. But in how they play though, and like let's say you gave Vol Molten Shell back its AoE, then now it plays exactly like Vol Fireball. It just has more single target in the end.
It doesn't though, because Vol Molten Shell,
but you're just running it. Like
Vol Fireball clears 3 screens.
Okay, so we're just talking about how much we like, how the area, and so like the further out it goes, the less single target you have. But they're essentially the same playstyle. Like you charge up your thing and you just start running through.
Reaching too much. I feel like that's like saying, well, every build in the game is clearing a map. It's not really the same playstyle. It's like comparing Kinetic Blast and Vol Molten Shell. They're both clearing the screen. Or I mean, Vol Fireball and Kinetic Blast, they're both clearing the screen.
You click your thing and then you just start running through things. That's the playstyle.
Yeah.
And then you're just looking for, then you just adapt to whether or not you need more single target or you need more AoE, and you pick.
I just don't feel like they're similar at all.
I don't know, okay. I guess we'll agree to disagree. I think there's way more similarities with all the ball skills than there is to any ball skill, basically. And then, like, just any other build where you have to self-cast.
Yeah, I think we'll agree to disagree.
Okay.
But that's good,
okay.
though.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
It's like so boring when everyone just always agrees all the time.
Yeah,
I think it's very healthy to have different opinions.
Oh, go on. The one thing
I was going to say, the one thing I don't really like in 2017 is that there's so much about everyone's like, oh, he has a different opinion than me. Fuck him. There's like, I feel like people are having a little bit more difficulty lately with like, oh, well, Nugi feels X reason. I can see why he feels like this, but I disagree with him.
No, I think it's good that we can disagree on something. I think in the end it comes down to also like our approach or how we measure things. Like let's say I measure how I play a build in X way, and you have a different way of like the way you feel a build plays for you is different. And so we will never be able to agree on this because it gives us a different feel of how the thing plays. But that's good though. Like the same skill in 2 different hands will either feel way different.
Yeah, I think a good example is Anime Weapon with me and the Uber Elite. Like they're both decent builds and both done very like different and far things. But like he plays a life build with Minor Matter, and I go like Super CI. He does totems. I do Cast One Channel Wither because of the mana. And like you have like 2 completely different builds with like very, very, I think it's really cool.
I think your adaptation is more towards where you just want to min-max as much as you can towards the end game, because when poison goes away, you might be forced to do totems just because you need your weapons to do even more damage. Like everything slows down a bit. You don't have to quickly summon everything.
The thing is though that the totems make you like you get an extra multiplier gem, but the totem itself makes you do less damage, whereas the Wither makes you do more multiplier.
Does it give you the well? You can swap them. You can swap the spell totem on single target though, and then it snapshots to the. So you end up with way more damage, and then you could wither on your own as well.
Yeah.
I think
it's such a nice playstyle because you don't have to invest into all the mana points.
Oh, sure. No, I can agree. Like for convenience and also with how much damage you're outputting right now, what if you're not swapping out the spell totem? I think it's very comparable DPS. I would imagine. So I can definitely see merits with both. But I think once
it's also that right now it has such a ridiculous amount of damage that you just don't need to think about it. So it'll be interesting to see.
But on the double dip stuff, have you looked into like what they're doing? Like
Yeah,
you said,
I read all of it.
yeah. What do you think about it?
Uh, I think the thing, it was something Rice said, which I started agreeing with and thinking about a lot, which was seeing as they're like breaking it off into smaller parts and stuff, it'll be much easier for them to balance because they
Yeah.
can go like, okay, well, we can balance this thing and make that 50% better, and then we balance the skill instead of going 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%. Oh, it's perfect. So yeah, I think it'll be a lot easier for them to balance now with all the new like branches, sort of, so to speak.
No, I think it's. I looked over them and I really like what they've done. I like that I like the fact that they haven't just completely broken everything up into this works for the initial hit and this works for the damage over time. But they are keeping fire damage and what else was it?
Increased damage, area damage.
No, an area damage will never double dip or will never apply to the damage over time.
It was as long as it stays inside the area.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah. That's true. What else was it? Oh, it's,
I read things.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's the proj damage and the what else is it? So proj damage will never do it unless it's on the thing.
No, I think proj will never. Oh.
Well, there is the like it's burning arrow and there is caustic arrow where they get the modifier like ED, but otherwise it will never apply. And so okay, so we have fire damage, AoE, and totem. Is it totem?
Oh, yeah.
Or
I think all the like generic ones were still gonna double dip in a way, but they're gonna double dip, but they're not gonna double dip.
Well, yeah, they affect both parts
they'll
separately.
Affect either. They'll affect either, sort of.
No, they will affect. Well, yeah. Well, either or both or whatever you want to call it. It affects both the hit and the degen at the same time, but they don't. Yeah. They don't feed off each other.
It's double dipping, but it's not double dipping.
Well,
anymore.
It's not double dipping at all.
Yeah, but I was talking about like that it'll affect both. That way, double dipping.
Yeah. But that's not double dipping.
Yeah.
That's just affecting both.
That's fine.
No, but my point here was I really like the fact that they keep that in the game to where you can actually you can take fire damage and it has a double effect.
Yeah.
And then you can be but then you can also have the one where you just focus on the hit, or you can focus on the degen, or you can focus on both. I think that's really cool. The fact that they made it like that.
That's just, I'm terrified of like, I think we're going to see somebody in the beta now just running around just laughing with Assassin and just being like, because like all these changes with like all the damage over time stuff being added and the crit damage over time just sounds insane for Assassin.
We'll see about that. The whole crit stuff hasn't even been finalized. They want to test things first, and there's nothing is finalized, and all this crit damage over time where you have to invest into the keystone. Like, unless you take the keystone they're gonna implement, nothing happens anyways.
Yeah.
Like, you're not
just. I feel about that. That feels a little mandatory for some things.
Only if you want to scale the degen, obviously.
Yeah. But I feel like, where are they gonna put this?
I don't know. They probably have a good idea.
I hope so. I feel like it's gonna be a lot of traveling for someone.
But what's the problem with that?
No, I guess. It'll be interesting. I'm a little worried about the placement of the node, mostly.
Well, that can be said about anything, basically, in this game, can it?
Behind RT.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. I'm really looking forward to the beta.
Yeah, me too. Are you gonna play hardcore?
No.
I don't. The only one, aren't I?
It's just you want to take risks all the time, and if you have to restart all the time, you never get to test things over and over again, and you never get to.
But that's gonna be exactly like a normal league for me anyway.
I don't know. Like, you have to. There's so much stuff to traverse through. If you let's say you make it to Act 9, right, and you really wanna test out the last bosses, Or you make it
But
to
it's
like
only
Act
to Act
8.
8, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, okay, so Act 8, whatever. Like however you get, but you don't get to the final boss and you keep dying just before.
I'll just continue on softcore.
What? But you're playing on hardcore.
Yeah, I'll continue on softcore. There's
Oh,
no
okay.
leagues. I'm going
Oh,
from
but
hardcore to
why?
softcore.
Okay, if you're just gonna continue on softcore, why start on hardcore in the first place?
Because then if I actually get it, I can be like, yay, you did it.
Okay.
And I can pat myself on the back. But
Okay.
it's just, I enjoy playing. Okay, so here's my reasoning, right? I enjoy playing hardcore more. And as much as I want to like break the game and like test out things, I can at least start on hardcore.
Sure.
And if there is something like I didn't really realize that things like I wasn't in the last beta for reference. And apparently in the last beta, the mobs before the rest, it was just like, you're dead.
Yeah, they're crazy.
I didn't
The
know
double
about
strike was
that.
crazy.
Yeah. So if there is something like that, I'll be like, right, fuck this. I'll continue on softcore. But if not, then and if I can do it, then I would like enjoy that a lot more
Oh, sure.
as well. While I still get to like test and beta and like try to break the game and report things to them. That's my reasoning.
No, that's fine. No, I can see that. I don't know if I want to bother with it because it's also really like having played a few of them, having to trade with anyone. There's like if you want to get a few pieces of gear, it's impossible on hardcore. If you want to,
I'm surprised to hear you saying that though, because you've just been playing solo self-found now.
Yeah, but if you want to try, you can. If I want to try something out on solo self-found, I would have to. It might take me a week to get something I wanted to try out.
Right, but this is still not solo self-found. There's going to be at least one other guy. I'll be doing it like between the two of us.
Okay. I don't know.
I mean, if there's one item you're going to get, you're still going to be able to get it.
I'm definitely not forcing myself to play hardcore. I might try it. I might do some, I don't know. But I don't know. To me, it doesn't really matter. In a beta, I couldn't really care whether or not where I play. If my agenda is to just test these things, or like just throw my face at like one boss over and over again with like 8 different variations of a build and just accepting death or see when I die, well then that's what I'm doing it for.
How long did you play the last beta? Like, was it something you played for days or weeks?
Weeks.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I find myself, whenever I'm testing stuff on softcore, I find that I like pick up really bad habits fast. And I sort of get a bit desensitized and stuff like that to like the enjoyment. Like I'm so used to pushing myself and playing hardcore that it's sort of like, and like all the games I've been playing have been like Darkfall, EVE Online, like games where you lose your entire character or starship when you die. So I'm just so used to playing that.
I see some merit though playing on softcore, because it gives you a new appreciation to sometimes your character you can push it so much further than you thought you could, and you can actually withstand a lot more than you thought you could. I played. Did you do some of the racing recently or the speed running?
I did like 2 runs.
Yeah, so I did a lot of runs, and what I noticed is that on the hardcore run, I was very on some of the bosses. I was like because I was trying to get a certain time, and so you don't want to take a certain amount of risk. Well, you want to take risks, but not too much, because you still want to survive. And so I did that, and on the resto, I was so scared because I was having a good time and it was going well, but I didn't really want to push it too much. But then I died anyways. And so I just started test running with that character on the resto, and I found that if I didn't play scared, I could run around with no potion for a minute straight without dying.
Oh wow!
And I was like, oh, good. But maybe so because I was playing so scared, that was actually what made me die in the first place. So sometimes you can learn a little bit by playing standard.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't really looked at it like that. I do like test out things on standard. Like obviously, things like Shaper and stuff are very hard to just walk into blind.
Yeah. Well, I did that. It didn't go well.
Did you die or kill it?
Oh, I killed the first 2 phases. And then on the third one, on my SRS and solo self-found, I died. After I hit 100.
Third one's very hard.
Yeah.
I know. I remember the first time I was playing, I tried with like a really unoptimized character on standard. It was like crit flame blast, and I was just, and it was 2 mana HP, and obviously Guardian didn't really do much damage increase. And I was like, holy hell, this thing is tanky. And Blue was just going like, oh, this is easy. And I was like, this is stage 1. It was like crazy tanky. Like the HP scaling for multiple people is insane.
Yeah. Is it just the same as isn't it just the same as every other place, or is it where you you like, add 50% per player?
Yeah,
like, how does it work?
Crazy when yeah, I think it is 50%.
Is it just 50% per player?
Especially for boss fights, it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone has to be like always doing damage if it's
So, something I wanted to ask about. How do you feel about sextants?
Sextants?
Yeah.
I think they're kind of ridiculous. Honestly.
Yeah, me too.
I think
people started chewing me out when I said that.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw a lot of people throwing a little, oh, this Zizaran guy, he's so out of touch with PoE, man. We're just some plebs and we want to have fun too. But
yeah.
No.
And I especially the thing I was saying was the call league stones, which yeah, sure, they might not be in.
Oh, the beyond.
But that's the thing. I want to make sure they're not in. They're ridiculous. They're not like, and I love them. They're so much fun right now. But they're also breaking the game. Because it gives the top 5% so much power over people who don't know about it and like people who can't afford to do it. Because the stuff you can do with that.
Computer to do it.
I mean, I managed to farm 60 divines in a couple of hours, and that was not optimized.
Oh, is there something where you corrupt everything gets corrupted, or?
So there are several ways of doing it. You can either the best thing and the cheapest thing is whenever you're just sextanting courtyards.
Oh, there's the
and you get the unique monsters drop corrupted.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the most. This is something you can do solo self-fun.
Yeah, and I did that a few times.
Yeah, and then you roll a 60 or 80% of the call league stone, and then you can. I think the most I got was 16 or 18 divines in one map.
Wow,
which is ridiculous. That's at the point where it gets game breaking, because that's at some point divines can go up to like 15C. So if some people are doing this and some people aren't,
in the game,
then suddenly you're just like, money. Oh, that's nice. And that's obviously like something that's more reserved for like the top 1 to 5% of the community. So that's where I feel like I'm not that out of touch. I'm trying to make sure that the top 1 to 5% can't just shit all over new players.
No, I don't. On the whenever you take something to the extreme, I don't think you're out of touch at all. Like I don't think you are, because I think it's ridiculous like how much you can set these things up, especially with Beyond right now, to where every single pack yields you 2-3 bosses on top.
It's ridiculous. It's like with the 80%, and the worst part is that the Beyonds themselves generate another charge. Honestly, I don't see a way of actually even having anything above the 20% additional stone. I just think that entire mod should go, because double Beyond right now is great and it's balanced. It's super rewarding to have on the map. You get a large amount of extra Beyonds, especially the packs. Like you get a large amount of packs, but you don't necessarily get 3 to 4 bosses per pack.
Well, the only way you obtain these though is through you buy them, right? From you buy them on trade, right?
Yeah.
So it's not something that you would. This is also about because this kind of this is only available to you when trading is good.
Yeah. But that's still something that is going to be more available to the top 1%, where they're going to be able to, oh, okay, this is like 18C, but I know exactly what to do with it. So out of my 18C investment, I can get 100 or 200C back. Whereas if you're a new player, you're going to be like, oh, 18C, that's great. I'm going to sell it. So sort of like you're making a pyramid where like
PoE has always been a pyramid scheme.
Just feeding the right, but that's what I want to see. This is something that's easily removable. That is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. It's too powerful. It's too much that you gain from it. I don't think the problem here is really the fact that it's a pyramid scheme and that players can that the top 1% can take advantage of it. I think it's just a problem that it's just too powerful, regardless.
Yeah. Because I found quite a few myself this league too.
You did? In my solo self-found, I found 4 or 5 with 40 to 60.
Yeah.
Total.
I think
of my entire 1 to 100 run.
13 to 15 before I started buying any, because I hadn't really been using them. And I also tried buying quite a lot of I thought this would actually be better, the one when you summon a Beyond Lord, it has a 20% chance of summoning a new one. I was like,
Eh.
ooh. I thought that would be really good, but
Oh.
then I tried the call, and I was like,
Yeah, the call
and
is
I actually
insane.
remember I was talking to someone at GGG at the time, like I was emailing Chris about, because we were talking about a possibility of him going on an AMA and stuff like that. And I was like, is this intended? So yeah, it's a little crazy because there was one map where I got over 70 Beyond Lords. So especially with if you get a Val Wins on the map as well.
Which one is
like, and that's
the
corrupting
corrupting? Oh, okay.
And that means that every single rare and blue Beyond you spawn as well also has a chance to drop a 6-thing, and they have pretty high quant. So yeah, you can get ridiculous amounts.
No, it's whenever you start just stacking everything together in PoE, it becomes kind of ridiculous. I don't.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't like about sextants is just how much. Just I don't really. It feels whenever you run through a map, it feels like if you don't have it on, the map feels so unrewarding. Because I remember just having one sextant, just one white sextant on your strand, and it's just night and day.
Yeah, no, for sure. I hadn't really thought about it until Al Kaiser mentioned it on the AMA, and as he said, like the fact that a white sextant can change the packs or like can affect a red map is crazy. I would want them to. Well, one option I kind of want red. Well, okay, I don't want white sextants being able to affect red maps.
Okay.
I sort of feel like, why would I use red sextants then? Like at the moment, I'm not. I'm selling my red sextants and buying whites. And that's how it's like sort of easier to sustain on your own as well, because you can sell the reds for like quite a lot, and then just buy like earlier on in the league, especially because then people are buying the reds to remove stuff on the map, and then people are selling the whites pretty cheaply. Like early first month, you can get them for like 1-to-1.
Yeah. Aren't there some mods that are restricted to reds though?
As far as I know, the only really ones you want anywhere are the pack size ones. But the only one that I'm aware of is red only is the Nemesis currency mods, I think.
Oh, yeah, I had that a few times.
I would probably want like white sextants maybe limited to 2 or 3 charges, yellows to 3 to 4, and then reds up to like 5.
On charges? Well, yeah. Why do they need to go up though?
I just feel like reds really aren't worth using right now with the...
Well, imagine you couldn't use whites on reds.
Yeah, then it's fine. This is like another option.
But should we... So we can see, okay, so we as endgame players and like people who play way too much, right? Like we play, I don't know how many, God knows how many hours we play a day. But so we see a problem here. So for the average player though, should we take away the option of having multiple sections of a map?
I feel like at least the whites and yellows should have a lower effect on the reds and yellows. And like I have never ever like been in favor of nerfing like the low to mid end game. For example, another example of this is when they were talking about changing the Atlas, and the Atlas had just come out, and people were complaining about the drop rate. I wanted them to increase the white and yellow map drop rate, but people were like, it got 5% across the board. And what I said would happen back then was I said that if they increase the drop rates more than they already are, because the Atlas is already really good, it's just people hadn't been getting to like the 80 to 100% bonus. People were generally complaining around the 20 to 30% bonus, and it was hard then. Which is why I was like, at least buff like the early game ones by quite a lot, but then keep like the red ones semi as it were, because right now, if I find a courtyard right now, I'm not even acknowledging it as a drop. I sort of missed that, I guess, where if I drop a tier 16 or drop a tier 15, I want to sort of go like, oh yeah, tier 15. I don't want to just go like...
I don't know about that.
Once you have like gotten to the end game, like all the players I see, like Uber Dan and Uber Elite and you and me, we don't have a map pool of enough to sustain ourselves. I have enough of a map pool to sustain me and 8 other people. which I feel is a problem.
But is it though? I enjoy this. I'm enjoying myself having to be able to run whatever map I want. And then I can decide how I want to sextant it up, what kind of mods I'm going to put on there, and all these kind of things. I do think that we can make them a little bit too crazy with all the sextants, but the fact that I can run whatever map I want at any given time, I can't really sustain Guardian maps though. That's very difficult.
guess I sort of prefer the less is more. Like, oh, well, maybe I have to run a crematorium right now. I actually don't like the Strand meta. I don't really enjoy that. Right now, people in my chat will sometimes say resident sleeper Strand, right? But why would I do anything else?
Yeah. I don't think
Like,
that's...
And there are a lot of people in the same boat, which we are going to do what's the most efficient. We don't necessarily want to, but there's no reason for me. Like, I'm a Diablo 2 Mephisto runner. Like, I could run...
You did some scriptoriums the other day to get those cards and stuff.
That was more like a science test because
of...
That was more for my stream. I wouldn't do that if I wasn't really a streamer. That was more, I wanted to see, can I farm a scriptorium? And I wanted to give a lot of my viewers like data on, or especially for Soul Self and stuff.
But if that was more rewarding, doing other things where it's not, if you make it so that Strand becomes less rewarding and you have some of the red maps, like the real red maps, if you make them more rewarding, because they have the penalty of having the adjacent maps drop, like that is quote unquote their penalty. I don't feel like as long as there are options out there to where you're never really sure whether or not this is the best, then I think it's fine.
Yeah, no, but that's what I want. I want there to be more options. As I said, like that's my favorite thing about games, where you don't go, I'm doing this because it's the best. I want players to have like, I'm doing this because this is what I want, and it is on par with something else.
I think one of the beauties of PoE has always been that you can choose kind of your own adventure, and you can't really choose your own adventure if you're like, if the mapping system becomes, well, if I have to get XP, I have to put so much effort into generating more maps, and there's only one every day I have to spend 20 chaos of my total 25 chaos I find into finding maps. Well, then everything just becomes a quest to find maps. It's not about trying other maps or just being experimenting and all these kind of things. It just becomes about finding maps. And some days you have really bad luck and you just end up with nothing and you go down 5 tiers.
Right, but there is a healthy balance where you can still have tier 15 and 16 maps be really exciting, and tier 10 to 13 or even 14 can be very regular. There is still that balance where you have, I want more things in the game to be very exciting, basically.
It's difficult though. If you, I think for us, where we play so much, it's very hard at the end, like where we get everything set up. If you have to balance that, if you have to balance the game around that, well, then you make it ridiculously hard for the average player. But
that's the thing, though. I'm not saying necessarily that. I don't want them to balance it around you or me at all. That's impossible, because then 90% of the player base are going to be completely shafted. But there are so many like average players that I know now that are playing like 2 to 6 hours a day, and they have a full set, like a full strand map or a full tab of strands. Like, so this isn't like hardcore elite players that are playing like 16 hours a day. This is like people playing like 2 to 6 hours a day. Like, obviously 6 hours a day is quite a lot, but like 2 hours a day, and they are doing really well as well. And like, they're sort of agreeing with me too that it's a little crazy.
You don't
like,
think that because you're saying you don't find any like you don't find it exciting finding a 15 or 6 or 15 at least, but a strand is 11. Like, maintaining 11s is pretty easy. It will always be easy. It will always be really easy, because there's a huge difference between 11 and 16. It's like before, when the max was like 12 or 11 or whatever. That was like finding 7 or 8s all the time. And those were not they were very common. You would have full stash tabs of them. It's always been like this. So to me, it really sounds like the issue here is more that the higher tier maps are yielding too little in comparison to the strand.
Definitely. I think a part of the solution to this as well is things like crystal belts, opal rings. I think that's one of the best things they've added, and like at least for me personally, of things that are exciting to drop. Like even when I am quite rich in the league and an opal ring drops, I'm like, oh wow, an opal ring. It's sort of rare and it's not normally in the maps I run. So like more things like that in weirder layouts or even straight up worse layouts, and things like, for example, like one of the best maps in the game, Shaped Factory. Imagine if that had like really good density, like better, right? Things like that. I think like some ways to balance this is sextants, as in like where they're placed on the map. So like they might have access to more sextants. And yeah, higher density and divination cards. I feel like there could be so much more being done with divination cards, making them more farmable.
I really like the from having done some of them, just a few until the cell found. The thing I immediately recognized was, or I recognized it after, not immediately, but after having done this for a while, that the what's it called? What's that the Shavs card called?
The offering.
Yeah, that was the best one, because you have to go into a sort of hard map. You have to fight this boss, and you have to like augment the map in certain ways to increase the chance of this one monster dropping it. And so having divination cards locked in bosses, I actually found very rewarding in a very nice way of, because if you could have different boss, like this could be a way of adding a loot table to a certain boss, where you could deterministically farm this one boss, and it's really nice, and you can have different divination cards and different bosses.
Yeah, or even maps. Like, well, there are a few divination cards that are really good like that right now. There are very few, but like the Dapper Prodigy and Resident, I used to farm that. Like, I can't afford a 6-ing right now, but I do have 30 residences. Let's farm those. And a lot of the time I would get a full 6-ing. I'm not 100% sure. So I had this discussion on my stream once, and somebody said that GGG had posted saying they were against specific loot drops. But for example, something I really enjoy right now, or that I always like said a lot that I enjoy about Path of Exile, is that the Adziri area has a massive chance of a Roomies and Lionized Roar dropping.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm farming Adziri, like say a league, if I do like 300-400 Adziris, I'll probably get like 8 to 10, or at least a lot. Like above 5, you need Granite Potions. So there are some things that are like an increased chance of like that base. And I think stuff like that is so cool. Like that's something I really enjoyed from like the Diablo 2 days. Yeah. Where you would go like, I'm Andariel Nightmare farming or Andariel Hell farming because of this drop has a 0.3% higher chance.
No, I completely agree that some of the determinism on drops is just really, really nice. It gives you this like, oh yeah, I have this nice chance of fighting this item, and then it happens a few times and you're like, yeah, I did something good here. Because I decided to go here and I got this drop. Like I got this reward from it because I decided to do this. It's really nice.
I like it when you have to like do a little more thinking, and it's something you can sort of discover on your own, because I haven't read that anywhere. This is just something, and no one's told me this. It's just I spent 1 league farming Adziri, and I was like, oh wow, I'm dropping a lot of Roomies here. Then the next day I was like, oh wow, oh my god, it's actually connected. Because like at some point, and then when you talk to other people, it's no longer anecdotal evidence. It's like it's every league now that I'm only dropping Roomies in Adziri.
No, I think it's the Adziri area is actually the place where I've found most Roomies as well. Because I've found a few, just having gone through there a few times.
So I really like stuff like that. That's something I'm a big fan of. I think a lot of people obviously miss things about past games and other ARPGs they played and stuff. I think the thing that I would like the most from Diablo is the fact that, for example, a Stone of Jordan could be on any ring base. So you find a unique ring, you don't know what ring you have just from looking at it. That would just be a plain base. So I just like the excitement of identifying something and it changing.
Okay, like that.
I miss the most. So like say I find a leather belt.
Oh, you would rather
I know that's found in a Nemesis area, but this could be anything until I click identify.
Would you rather have it so that the skin is not immediately shown?
Yes, so badly. You could have it in your inventory and be like...
Honestly, I think that might be a good idea. Because it also...
I would do anything for that.
Remember the lioness bow as well, right? That could have been a wind ripper, right? You see it on the ground. You're like, oh, I'm not even gonna pick it up or ID it. Just the fact that we ID it and you get that click, the super exciting click. I can see that. I can see the sentiment there for sure.
There's not that many items in PoE because we have the base types like that. I would even be fine with them going back to ring.
We have Mjolnir as well.
Yeah. Oh.
The gavel, and every time you ID it, it's the wrong one.
Yeah. Until it's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's something that's probably one of the things I like miss the most about PoE.
I think that's actually the best idea I've heard in a long time on that. Also on slowing down the meta, because now you can't not pick it up.
Yep. I do sort of, I do like both ways. It's like, so like, oh, I know what this is, whereas a new player wouldn't, but it's not like the inner loot whore in me. It's like, I want to have to pick that up and click it.
Yeah.
It's like so many new players will always say like, Ziz, why didn't you pick up that unique? And I'm like, because it's fucking trash.
Yeah. No, I follow.
So yeah.
I like that. I like that. We should have that. We should have it not be shown immediately.
Right?
Yeah,
right?
No, I agree. And then nobody can talk badly about Neversink of having his base types in the filter anymore.
That's like one of the most frustrating things when like somebody's like, why don't you do this? And they're like, because you can't.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think that's a good little note to end it on. Let's get some of those exciting loot drops back. Man, we have to suggest it.
Wait, ending? Are we ending the coffee talk?
Yeah, we have. So the coffee talk is we have limited space, so we have around an hour. We have around an hour each week, because we have to have like there's like a certain amount of space the tags like we can upload to, and if we extend them too long, we have to like buy more space and such and such. So the coffee talks are usually around 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour. Sometimes we go over a little bit, and today we did go over a little bit by 5-10 minutes. So we have to kind of start wrapping it up.
I feel like I was just on like a date with a hot girl, and I was just like getting really into the discussion. She's like, "Oh, I gotta go." I'm like,
well, we can. If there's anything you would like to talk about here on the to kind of lead us out, is there a topic you're burning to talk about? Then we can take that.
No, you like completely stomped on my balls right now. I was just like heartbroken now.
Oh no. Anyways, I think so I think that's just gonna be us wrapping it up then. So for those tuning in, this has been Coffee Talk number 11 with our guest host Zizaran. And where can we find you?
Twitch TV/Zizaran. Used to be PC Child.
Hey. And do you have any other?
YouTube.
And on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. It's PC Child 88 on YouTube. Kill me. One day they'll let us change.
And for those listening in, you can find the live version of this podcast being broadcast on twitch.tv/nugiyen on the YouTube channel, and on our official site called thecoffeetalkpodcast.com, where we will upload the new episode every Monday. So yeah, that's it for me and Zizaran. And yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for being on. See you guys next time.